Hello, peeps and creeps, and welcome to Fright Club. I'm Gav, he's Danny.
Hello.
We're the Fright Club and this is a brand new episode of Monday Night Frights. On tonight's show, we're heading back to Elm Street to talk about A Nightmare on Elm Street Part 4, Dream Master.
Wanna suck the face?
No.
You flunk.
And we're back with another episode of Monday Night Frights. It's episode 4.10, Danny.
Boom.
And we're going back to Elm Street to visit one of the greatest horror villains of all time, Freddy Krueger.
One of our favourites, Mr. Freddy Krueger, in his lovely seasonal Christmas jumper.
Yes, Freddy Krueger.
Freddy Krueger, lovely Christmas jumper.
He loves it. But do you not feel a wee bit lonely tonight, Danny? Because it's just me and you. The last few weeks we've had a special guest on.
We've always had guests on, I know.
Yeah.
But I mean, I still love the us time. You know, it's really important that we have some us time.
Some time for just me and you.
But it's been good having guests on. You know,
Yeah.
guests have been fantastic. But I'm glad that we're here to talk about Nightmare on Elm Street. And someday we won't be alone. Whenever we talk about Nightmare on Elm Street, Nightmare on Elm Street, we shall be joined. That's right, Beaker. We will be joined by Mr. Freddy Krueger, Robert Englund himself. Someday.
We can dream.
Someday. We dream somewhere out there. Freddy Krueger will join us at night.
He will be in our dreams someday.
Someday.
Keep all your fingers and toes crossed for us that we can get Robert Englund on the show sometime.
Robert Englund will someday appear.
It will eventually, if it ever happens, it'll just be him because we'll both have fainted.
We'll both be literally like, it's going to be Wayne's World, but the pair of us just like, we're not worthy. We're
scum.
Robert Englund, like, fucking, I'm
here are these two fucking Northern Ireland ghoulies.
Pair of face.
Unprofessional fucking fanboys. But
we're always prepared
for
our Nightmare on Elm Street stuff.
Exactly.
This, I think we can both. Well, this for me in the series is where I start to sort of drift away a bit. I start to get a wee bit bored here.
Mm-hmm.
You dig it. You dig it.
I dig it.
I dig. But this is the point where I start to get a bit like.
We are here to talk about Part 4 in the Elm Street franchise. Dream Master.
Dream Master. Mr. Dreams.
I'm going to stop you here though, but before you go any further, if you have not watched our previous 3 Elm Street episodes, please go back and watch them now. I will put them either here or in the description, but please go back, watch the first 3 episodes, and then come back and revisit this episode. Just in case you get any spoilers, you know, because it's we don't like to spoil things for people.
We don't. No. I mean, you need to. I think especially for this one, you need to have seen Dream Warriors. Kind of picks up.
Yeah,
leaves off.
This is a direct sequel to Dream Warriors. Yeah, it features many. Well, it features 3 of the cast. Mm-hmm. 3 of the same cast from Dream Warriors.
Dream Warriors.
Dream Warriors. Dream Master.
I feel like Dream Master just again even this one. You're kind of like this. The soundtrack to this seems like it starts kind of strong, and then as it goes on, you're like, you're throwing way too much at this.
Well, this was known as the MTV Nightmare. It was released in 1989. No, it was released in 1988. Sorry, and it was, you know, obviously MTV was huge at this time, so there's quite a few rock songs on this, and it was very much a rock star version, I think, of A Nightmare on Elm Street. Mm-hmm. And we'll get into that a little bit later when we talk a little bit more in detail about certain things that happened.
Yeah.
But I love this film. If you've watched any of the previous Elm Street episodes that we've done, you will know that Part 4 was the first one in the franchise that I saw as a child. And so I fell in love with it, and it was the film that made me fall in love with Freddy Krueger and want to go back and watch the previous 3 films, which I do prefer the first one, and then Dream Warriors. This is probably my third favorite in the franchise. Joint. No, I'd say this is probably joint with New Nightmare. I go back and forth between this and New Nightmare as my number 3
I think
in the
New Nightmare's
franchise.
my number 3.
Really?
New Nightmare would be mine. It goes 1, 3. New Nightmare is in terms of like 1, 2, 3. I don't know where the rest kind of fall because I did rewatch all of them after we did the screening, which was, I mean, next weekend will be the 2-year anniversary of our screening of Nightmare on Elm Street. But yeah, I watched them all again around that time. But I think I would need to do it again just to like 100% kind of be like, okay, this is my order. But in terms of my top 3, it goes 1, 3, and then New Nightmare.
Yeah, I definitely go 1, 3 is my top 2, and then I would lean towards Dream Master before New Nightmare just because of the nostalgia fact and the fact that I saw it when I was a kid. It was the first one. It's very 80s. It's very rock.
So
you know, it's cheesy,
actually,
but I love. I think it embodies the franchise even more so than maybe Part 3 does. Part 4 really embodies the whole entire franchise as a whole.
Okay, yeah.
But it was released in 1988. It was directed by Renny Harlin, who was a Finnish director, and like Renny Harlin is just fascinating to me because he's a director who this was only his second feature film. I think he'd done 2 feature films before this. The first one was basically no budget. Don't think it got much of a release. And then he did a proper feature film that got released called Prison, which I haven't seen. I always say that I'm going to watch it and I never get around to fucking watching it. Apparently it's pretty mental. And he got the job because of that film. So he is a rock star film director, and he brought a lot of his personality to this film, and you can see it in the film. And anybody who talks about Renny Harlin, especially about the production of this and how he worked on this film set, it's always a bit sort of like, fuck, he's just completely mental. You know, not mental in the sense that he's, you know, a psycho, but just like very unique, and his style was very original, and he had a unique way of working. And it'll be interesting to go through some of the production notes that we've got here today.
Yeah.
But after he did this, you know, he went on to do Die Hard 2, and he did The Long Kiss Goodnight with Samuel Jackson and Gina Davis. He's done some other big films as well. So, you know, this was the film that really launched him, launched his career. And, you know, people laugh about this film sometimes, and they laugh about Renny Harlin, but up until Freddy versus Jason, this was the most successful film in the franchise.
Yeah.
Do you want to know how much it did, Danny?
Oh, go on, give us them numbers. Give us them figures. Give us a wee budget.
So the budget was about $6.5 million, give or take, and it was, which is quite low, really, when you think about it. But it made $49.5 million in the US, and I don't have a worldwide budget, but I mean, that's a pretty good return.
That's I mean, you'd be happy with that, like 100%.
You would be, yeah. And as I said, until Freddy versus Jason came out years later, this was the best, the highest grossing film in the franchise, which is kind of hard to believe, and I'm sure a lot of people don't actually know that fact, but it is, yeah. So
that's pretty mental. Yeah, I wouldn't have assumed that. It wouldn't have been something I would have thought, but I suppose, as you say, it sort of encapsulates what it is to be Nightmare on Elm Street beyond the first film, and then also it's very much a product of its time. As you say, it's that kind of MTV Nightmare on Elm Street, and I think it just feeds into a lot of what was sort of popular then, because I mean, the whole, obviously the music, and I think a lot of the color schemes in it, which we'll get into more, but some of the coloring in this film is very much neon, and also the fucking Karate Kid element of the whole thing.
Karate,
very much, yeah. I was like, fucking hell. Fucking crane kicks left, right, and center. Like, but yeah.
I love it, man. I fucking love it. I really do love it. And I don't love it ironically. Like I genuinely do love the film. It has its flaws. Clearly, it has lots of flaws. You know, some of the acting's questionable, especially early on, and you know the story elements. There's a lot of plot holes, but we'll get there. And I just love it, man.
Talk about just the biggest story element of all. Fucking, it's Alice through the Looking Glass. Like it's just so on there. I mean, and the fact that they even then go on to make an Alice in Wonderland joke, you're like, you know what you're at, you know what you're doing. I was just a bit like, oh, to this, you know, it just
a bit on the nose,
for me. Yeah, it was a bit too on the nose for me.
So it was written by, the original script was written by a guy called William Kotzwinkle. Yeah.
Kotzwinkle.
I think that's how you pronounce his name. But I've never heard of him before, so I don't know how much work he did, but apparently he did the first draft, which I'm guessing it was a pretty basic draft. It then got a polish by a writer called Brian Helgeland, who would go on to be, you know, I think he was nominated for a few Oscars. He wrote Mystic River. He wrote LA Confidential. You know, he did a lot of big movies after this. But he was hired to polish the script, and he was paid 70 grand to do that. And he handed in his script, which would eventually become the shooting script. Mm-hmm. However, the production of this film is a bit wild, and I was trying to write down various facts about the production and the filming and all that sort of stuff, and I just picked a few things out that I thought was interesting, and most of it surrounds the director, Renny Harlin. Okay. We'll get to some of his shit in a bit, but the basic premise of this, we talked about it being a sequel to Dream Warriors, a direct sequel. So Kristen Parker has now changed actress. Her face has changed. That's not part of the plot, by the way. Patricia Arquette was asked to come back for this, and she politely declined, saying that she had a few other job offers and she kind of wanted to explore different types of films. And it was offered to a young budding actress by the name of Tuesday Knight, who was also a singer and also performed the song in the opening credits. Welcome to My Nightmare, I think it's called. Or no, it's just called Nightmare, actually. Mm-hmm. Which is a great fucking rock song, and it's a really good
as I said, it starts off with really strong opening credits, and then as it kind of goes on, you're like, please stop with the needle drops now.
I know.
I get it. Just give us those nice.
You love a good needle drop, though, Danny.
I love a good needle drop when it's done right, and in this instance, I don't feel it was done right. I would just like more of the Elm Street music, please.
There wasn't a lot.
Street music so much, and again, this film, like the way it uses needle drops and the way it uses the Freddy music, it just even uses the Elm Street music in just a real kind of like cut and paste kind of way. Or like, here comes Freddy, let's put in the music.
Yeah, the score in this is obviously it's a play on the original score by Charles Bernstein, but it's not as sort of eerie or scary. It's kind of more in your face, but it's, I don't know, it's okay. Like it's not too relevant, I don't think, throughout the film. No. Obviously, there's more songs and stuff which hadn't really been used much in previous sequels or previous films. And I think the score was done by a composer called Craig Saffin. But most people, I don't think, would really think of the score much in this film. They just think of the songs that were used. This picks up directly after Dream Warriors. It's about Kristen, who has, and also Joey and Kincaid they've left the asylum. They're now free from Freddy, or so they think. But yeah,
you're never really
free. You're never free from Freddy. Especially when there's a dog who can piss fire, because that's a very important part in the Freddy lore.
It's
what
the fuck? Dogs pissing fire.
Where did that come from? Seriously, like
somebody just went, you know what would be really funny but also kind of spooky? Dog pissing. And then somebody went, well, what's spooky about a dog pissing? I'm like, pissing fire, mate.
I think there is an actual explanation behind this, or a very vague explanation. It's somewhat biblical, because at the end of Dream Warriors, whenever she puts the cross on his head, doesn't she? And then
Mhm.
he sort of, and then they bury his bones in the junkyard as well.
Yeah.
And then there's something in the Bible. I don't know if this is real because I don't read the Bible, but there's some sort of biblical story about a dog that, like the hounds of hell or something, that resurrect some sort of body. Again, it feels like they're sort of, clutching at straws there, but I think they were playing on that aspect. I don't know how true that is, but I know that in the documentary Never Sleep Again, which is fucking amazing, and everyone should go and watch that.
I still need to watch it. I haven't got around to it yet. I need to
awesome
do it.
awesome documentary. Every single film, there's a really long documentary for each film, and they talk to the actors, they talk about the production, the good, the bad, and the ugly throughout the whole series. Really great documentary. You can find it on Amazon or something, I'm sure. It's awesome. But I remember when they were talking about this film, there was something to do with like the hounds of hell, and there was some sort of biblical story that they took from. I do feel like it was just like, oh fuck, how can we resurrect Freddy? We don't really have anything. Let's just have the dog piss fire.
Let's have the dog piss
fire,
and just see how it goes.
Yeah, exactly. It gets resurrected. So anyway, basically she's pulling them into their dream again because she thinks Freddy's coming back.
Yeah,
and eventually they all get taken out. But just as she gets taken out, she passes her power on to her best friend, who she's pulled in to the dream, and who Freddy sort of coerced her into doing that because he knows that she's the last of the Elm Street kids, and he wants to then continue on killing kids, and he needs fresh meat, Danny. Fresh meat.
Is it not that though? So yes, she kind of passes her power on to her, but is it not also that girl, because of how like powerfully she can dream, even that her daydreams, like she's such a strong dreamer that she even has like these really vivid daydreams, that she's able to kind of take on other people's dream powers? Is that not a thing within it?
Well,
at the start, a lot of the times when you see her at the start, she's like daydreaming about a scenario, but then she kind of snaps out of it and she's back to reality, and she's not doing whatever she's daydreamed about because it's always like her standing up for herself or whatever. But then it's actually like, oh wait, no, she's actually not as brave as that until the end of the film, of course, because that's just natural progression.
Well, it's character development, I think you'll find it's called, Danny. But yeah, so part of the plot to this is the fact that her character does develop quite a bit through it. At the start, she's like a sort of shy kind of
because it's the thing that really
Carrie White type figure.
Yeah, the thing that really gets me about this is there's she kind of has like all these pictures of like her and her friends, but it's almost like at the start of the film she's not really part of the friend group. She's kind of just like this little person that kind of kicks around in the background. And there's one photo in particular where it's like all the main kind of players, all the dream warriors are kind of together in the photo, and she's just kind of like sneaked into it. Like
she's
that's
shy,
it looks,
Danny.
I just
got anxiety. She's shy. She's demure. She's introvert.
I was just like, I just want through the whole way through this film. Yes, I understand. Like again, normally the sort of surviving girl is always the one who's kind of like well behaved, a bit more preppy, doesn't give in to sex, drugs, and rock and roll. But it was just too reserved. Like there was no real kind of personality behind her until later on, till she develops more. Whereas like Nancy and all kind of have a bit of go in them from the start.
Yeah, she turns. There's a scene specifically that and you see the transition. It's after Kristen dies, and she pulls away the photo, and she looks at herself in the mirror. And previously she had said that all the photos were covering her mirror basically, and her brother was like, that defeats the purpose of having a mirror, and she was like, I don't want to look at myself. But after Kristen dies, she pulls away one of the photographs and she looks herself directly in the mirror, and she has changed a little bit. Her hair has suddenly got a little bit lighter, and it's not sort of pasty. It's not like pasting over her face. It's a wee bit fluffier, and she looks a wee bit more alive, I suppose, or a wee bit sort of kind of more fresher.
Maybe she's born with it. Maybe it's the death of a friend.
Maybe it's bereavement.
Maybe it's a little bit of grief.
But yeah, so it was very on the nose and that, but that is part of the story. I think her character was loosely based on the fact that Ripley in the first Alien movie was very much a background character for most of the start of it, and kind of came out of nowhere to be the main character, and then turned into a complete badass by the end of it. Which I wouldn't necessarily.
What's the best way to be a badass? Kung Fu. Man, see when she's getting herself like all ready and geared up, and she's got like the studded belt and
montage.
Like, oh, it's a motherfucking montage. And she's putting the headband like around her hand and stuff. And was it starts putting like, I don't know, some buckly thing around like her legs and all. And I was like, you're really going for it here.
I'm surprised you didn't put on the wee glasses, toys
just
glasses. I know.
War paint or something as well.
Rambo. But I have to admit, see that whole montage of her putting on the buckle and getting ready to fight Freddy. See, when I was a kid, when I first saw this, I was doing the same, man.
You were just like, I'm ready to fight Freddy.
I went into my room afterwards and was like, come on, Freddy, you fucker. And tied a belt around my fucking wrist and all. Turned my hat round. I'm still fucking turning my hat round, but that kind of idea. And just, it was kind of inspiring when you were
ready to battle those dream demons.
Yeah. I was the Dream Master, Danny.
You were the Dream Master.
So, another little fact: Wes Craven, who we know, created the franchise and wrote and directed the first film, and he also wrote the original script that was sort of used for the third film. He was approached before this film by Bob Shaye about coming up with an idea, and he came up with the treatment. I don't think he wrote any sort of script, but he came up with a sort of treatment idea. Which sounds fucking awesome, and I fucking wish it happened. Bob Shaye rejected the idea. Yeah, I know, fucking bastard. But he thought it was just too far out there. It was about time travel in dreams. There you go.
Could you tell us a wee bit more?
That's all I know.
Details on that time travel in dreams, but that seems so like where the likes of
Inception.
Like Back to the Future and Inception actually, but I would like to know more, because where like a lot of time travel movies try to stick to some sort of pseudoscience, time travel in dreams can be like limitless. Like there's no real rules to that.
I think that's one of the reasons why Bob Shaye rejected it, because he sort of said, look, we get that we can sort of break the rules a little bit and sort of go outside of the boundaries, but that's going too far a little bit. So
silly.
It would have been interesting to see what the script would have looked like, and I'm really I really wish there was a script out there, because I think it sounds awesome. A
little something, a couple of scenes would be nice. I would like to know how they would have worked that, because I do love me a bit of time travel in movies.
Mm-hmm. There's maybe too much of it out there now.
Yeah,
it feels like there's a lot of films that do touch on time travel or time loops or
dream time
deja
travel,
vu.
Though.
Yeah, I know. But interesting anyway. Very interesting.
Nightmare on Elm Street, but like a Nightmare on Elm Street Inception, baby.
Mm-hmm.
Is that what we need? Do we need that?
Chris Nolan could make the next Elm Street movie.
Imagine. Ooh.
Just Freddy wearing a suit.
It's what, just him walking around in the suit, but with still the glove on. I'd actually, because I love I think Scarecrow in Batman Begins is a fantastic villain and is very underrated for how spooky he can be.
Yeah.
So I could definitely see Nolan maybe doing a little something with Elm Street.
That'd be mental.
That'll be interesting.
300 million budget.
Somebody
on IMAX.
Let us know in the comments if you think who would you like to see bring
Hans Zimmer
Street to life
on the score.
Hans Zimmer on the score, of course.
Leonardo DiCaprio playing Freddy Krueger.
I don't. Maybe after watching The Revenant and seeing him with all the the bear torn up.
He's very intense. He's an intense actor. I don't know if he could do.
But again, would it be too creepy then? Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if he could do that. But yeah. So anyway, let's get away from that.
Let us know in the comments below if you like the sound of that, or what you think. Who would maybe do it a bit better? Everyone's going to say David Lynch or something.
David. Yes. Here we go. Talk about surrealism.
Mm-hmm.
Dreamscapes and all. Yes, please.
Fucking Twin Peaks. Elm Street. That'd be fucking trippy, boy.
So anyway, Yeah, so there was a lot of problems with this production. Basically, they started kind of really quickly after Dream Warriors. They actually started filming before they even had a director. So there was a few scripts. There was a shooting script that they were working with that was written by Brian Helgeland. Had been redrafted a few times, and they had started shooting before they had hired a director. There was one director they were talking to who I think had worked on one of the Jason films. I can't remember the guy's name, unfortunately. And they wanted him to come in, and he wanted to do it, but whenever he found out they had already started shooting, he was like, "What's going on here? This is a bit weird." And they were like, "Well, we know what we're doing, blah blah blah. We've already got some scenes shot." And he was like, "Nah, look, if you're going to hire me, it's my film. I decide.
I do the
The
whole
shooting
thing,
schedule.
not
I decide all
some
that."
of the stuff.
And they were like, "Nah, fuck off, mate." So they got in Renny Harlin, who mental director. But anyway, he wanted, his whole sort of idea was to focus on Freddy. He was kind of like, we don't really need to focus too much on the actual plot, which sounds a bit weird. But he was like, Freddy's a rock star. Freddy's almost like the hero of the franchise. And I think this film's a real turning point in the franchise, because there is a wee bit of comedy in here. There's a wee bit of one-liners from Freddy, but he's still very scary.
He's still very scary. Yeah, it's not. Yeah, I would say you do get a few bits and pieces, but I would say it's not even necessarily the strongest script for Freddy. There's some of the stuff in it where, like, Nightmare on Elm Street 2 has some fucking, like, "You're all my children now."
Yeah.
Is a fucking fantastic line. But in this one, there's a line towards the end where he goes, "I'm eternal." And it doesn't hit the same.
No, it doesn't really.
There's like some of the lines that just don't hit the same. Again, some fantastic humor and all throughout, as is typical of Freddy. But it for me anyway, it doesn't hit a lot of the same kind of. It doesn't hit a lot of the same notes that the first three films do.
I think this film still blurs the line between comedy Freddy and sort of really scary Freddy, because he is quite scary in this at times when he sort of just appears from nowhere and he stands up and he's got that real thin sort of gunslinger type demeanor to him.
Really thin in this film. There's something about especially sort of towards the end when they're kind of having their face-offs and stuff, and he's standing at like the top of the church, and then he kind of has that moment where he's sort of leaning up against one of the statues, and he just looks really kind of elongated, and his face is really like shallow and stuff, and I'm like, you're a spoopy boy, you look a bit unwell, Mr. Frederick.
Robert Englund must have been smoking a lot of cigarettes when he was filming this,
perhaps,
or other stuff. Zoop. Say nothing. But yeah, so I think he's quite scary in this one too, and I think it's the next one, Dream Child, where he sort of starts saying a lot of the one-liners that kind of made him famous. So he's still quite terrifying in this. But we were talking about how Alice looked in the film and how she started off kind of demure and shy and then transitioned into a bit of a badass. Lisa Wilcox, who plays Alice, I think she's amazing in this. It was a very purposeful performance from her, so she really went kind of over the top a wee bit, I suppose, at the start, where she was kind of being overly shy. She was playing that sort of Carrie White, wearing the bright cardigan and sort of holding the books like this and being all like, ugh. But she had auditioned for Dream Warriors, and she didn't get the part. So whenever they were casting for this, she re-auditioned as you would, and she was put into the reject pile. But then they couldn't find the right girl to play the part, because they wanted it to be a part that they didn't want it to be like a really hot girl, and she's quite a good looking young girl, and when she came into audition, she looked nice. She had her makeup on, blah blah blah. She had blonde hair, by the way.
Yeah.
And they thought she was too good looking for the role, so they put her in the pile, and then they had to flick through the reject pile first and be like, look, we need to get somebody here. So she came back for a callback, and I think she got some notes to say that she kind of looked too good looking. So when she came back, she like literally wore no makeup. She wore like the worst drabby clothes that she had. I don't even think, she said in interviews that she didn't really do her hair at all. Like, she just really looked like shit, apparently.
Yeah.
Those are her words, by the way, not mine. And then she got the part, so fair play.
That's how you do it.
That's how you do it, yeah. You're acting, remember, this is acting.
Yeah, the fact that she acted on her feedback as well, obviously shows that she had a real desire to be in the film, because again, someone else who's maybe like, nah, it's just a job, maybe wouldn't have check over and put the work in, put
I
the
know.
effort in. So again, I think she does put in a really good performance. I really like the scene in the diner with her when it's kind of like the older her serving her. And again, her performance as the diner's a bit kind of cheesy, but again, it's said within a dream. But I like her kind of reactions and stuff, especially to the soul pizza and all. But I need to. Do you remember? Is that particular part of the film taken from one of the Freddy TV episodes? You know, remember Freddy's Nightmares, the TV show?
Yeah, they hadn't. I don't think they'd made it by this stage.
Had
Had
they
they?
not made it by that
No,
stage?
no, it was after this.
No. Okay, well then maybe that influenced the TV because there's something I can kind of remember about like a diner and a sort of similar kind of idea
Yeah,
to that
there's
pizza scene.
there's a.
Um,
You're right. There is a diner scene that actually just it sticks out like
Is it
Nightmare
coming-
Diner or something or Nightmare.
is it coming?
Cafe.
I know obviously in the remake there's a whole lot of stuff goes on in a diner, but I'm near sure that in the Freddy's Nightmares TV series there's something to do with a diner and with a pizza or something to do with food, and I just was kind of like, did this
Well,
influence the TV
just-
show, or did
yeah.
the TV show influence this? But obviously, if the TV show came after,
Well, it did. It's saying that it started in '88, so the same year.
okay,
But I think this came out before the first episode. I could be
before
wrong there.
the series aired. Okay,
Yeah. So
but yeah, just an interesting note. But yeah, again, that for me was probably one of my favorite scenes with her, and then sort of going in towards the end.
yeah, I think she really does improve as the film goes on, and obviously her character changes. So that was
it's because
that was very purposeful. Yeah.
She's pure hamming up at the start, trying to be all like, "Oh, I'm so coy and shy," and blah.
Stop
But
it,
as she
you.
becomes more and more confident, it's clear that she's just becoming more herself.
Mhm.
So yeah, it does sort of get better that way. But again, the montages and stuff, and the fact that her name is Alice, and then they make an Alice in Wonderland joke. I just, you know, the one scene that really got me, and I was like, that's just fucking stupid. You know, when all the Dream Warriors have died. Spoiler alert: all the Dream Warriors die. But when they are in the graveyard, and all the Dream Warriors' graves, but also Nancy's grave, are all together.
I wrote that down, man.
Are all
And Nancy's dad as well.
conveniently together, and I was just like
within 2 feet of each other.
in what fucking world? In what fucking world
I know.
is that a thing? And it's just, yeah, I was like, I was watching the thing. Have you watched that Netflix Cliches of Hollywood series yet?
No,
Or not
not
series,
yet.
just it's a documentary thing. But there's the thing in that about the main characters visiting the graveyard to give them purpose within a film, and it's a whole thing. But it's always like it's very clear that they're visiting a family member's grave. But one of like the worst ones in Hollywood is that on the grave, I can't remember the name of the movie it was in, but on the grave it says his wife.
No way.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I was just like, but
Amazing.
again, watching this scene, I was just like, why are all those graves so conveniently close together? Like, that's just silly. Come on, guys.
I actually laughed out loud when I seen it. I was like, my God. And then I wrote it down. All tombstones right beside each other. Like,
right beside each other. Just all
amazing.
right there together.
Amazing.
So they can all be caught in one convenient shot.
I know.
Silly.
But stuff like that I love, though. I know it's stupid, but I
So
kind of just love
cheesy.
the charm behind all that.
I know.
So another actress from the Elm Street auditioned for this film, Leslie Dean, who turns up in Freddy's Dead 2 films later. She plays Tracy. She auditioned, but she was rejected. But then she must have been in a wee pile as well, because she got the part of Tracy in Freddy's Dead, which we will talk about in a couple of seasons. And I'm really looking forward to talking about that one, because it's fucking mental.
I'm excited.
So mental. So the script for this was sort of constantly changing. Renny Harlin was a complete madman apparently on set, and just a very weird cat. There was a rumor that him and Tuesday Night were actually an item. I don't know if there was much truth to that, but apparently a lot of the cast believed that they were banging each other. And he would try things like, I don't know if it, I feel like he was maybe a little bit inappropriate on the set. Now, it was the 80s, different time, but, apparently that scene where Kristen's in the bikini, the beach scene, yes. He wanted her to be wearing like really skimpy stuff. And she was like, look, I'll wear a bikini, but I want to cover something. She wanted to cover, she was a young woman, she wanted to cover herself up. Yeah. And he wanted Lisa Wilcox to be completely naked in the scene where, well, the scene that she's wearing her nightie. He wanted her to be naked underneath, and he to see a bit of nip.
Of course.
You know, which most people, it was the 80s, lads. Come on, we all like seeing a wee bit of nip in the 80s. Nip and horror movies go together.
The titty count.
Titties. But she was like, no, look, come on. So I think she wore something underneath it. So I don't know how inappropriate it was, but apparently he was a wee bit sort of like, nah. Yeah. But anyway, so he was a bit of a mentalist because he was constantly changing the script, and as they were filming, he was just coming up with ideas for things, which sometimes I suppose is a good thing. But sometimes when you're working on a budget, when you're working, you know, when you've been hired to do a job, and you've sort of got constraints, maybe going beyond those is not the best idea. But
especially when you're working on a production who have already decided that they're going to start shooting before you're even involved.
Yeah,
I would say that coming onto a project like that, you'd be like, I'm not going to fuck around here because these guys obviously know what they're up to. They've already started shooting.
He was a rock star. Come on.
He was a rock and roll kind of guy. Sex, drugs, and rock and roll.
Exactly, yeah. I would imagine he was, you know, having a good time. A
little booger sugar, anyone?
Oh, I think so. But yeah, so he would rewrite lines and stuff. And I think in that Never Sleep Again documentary, some of the actors actually said that they made up lines. They just would make up lines.
Just ad-lib.
Yeah, they would ad-lib certain dialogue in certain scenes because, you know, he was changing the script and stuff, and he would just say, look, just do it. And you know, there is, and you can tell the editing in this film isn't the best. There's certain scenes that kind of, there's a lot of sort of weird cuts, and there was one scene in particular that stuck out was whenever Kincaid is in the junkyard at the start, and he's seen Freddy, and he's shouting for Kristen, and he's like, Freddy's back, and you get that camera shot that pans back above the junkyard. Which would usually lead into another scene, but then it just cuts to Freddy standing in front of Kincaid, and then he kills him, and you're like, that's a very bizarre cut. Like, that was clearly a random edit that they just put in. They were like, oh, this is an amazing scene. Oh, wait, we have to actually kill Kincaid. Shit.
We have nothing to insert here. Just cut straight to the kill.
Yeah. It was a weird scene.
There's one bit about that scene, though, and it's the practical effects of it.
Please, man.
And it's when Freddy fucking reforms
resurrects.
And resurrects, and his eye. This one specific bit for me is when his eyeballs like reform, and I was just like, "Oh, look at that! Look at that! How did they do that? That's cool."
Oh my god! Man.
Really, really like it when all his flesh just sort of. It looks like a wax candle in reverse. The way
exactly
it
all
comes together, which but fuck, I just great moment.
Yeah, it was a reverse shot, and it's just, man, just give me 90 minutes of that shit. Just
reverse Indiana Jones, like reverse end of Raiders.
Exactly, amazing, love it when the bones all just clink together and then the skin comes, and absolutely amazing. And one of the best parts of it is whenever Kincaid's standing there shitting himself. And then you just see this hand go in, and he just lifts the dusty fedora, and he just shakes it off. He's back, boys. Freddy's back.
It's another great. You know what? The more we're kind of talking about it, the more I'm like, maybe I was being too harsh on it at the start. The more we think there is so often, I'm like, I know another great scene in that, another great moment in that particular scene when the fucking cars all start. Because again, we've already kind of seen the cars freak out before, but this one just adds a wee bit more. There's more like fire and flashy lights, and it's a bit more nightmare-y, nightmare-esque and stuff. And yeah, I was just like, this is cool. This is Freddy shit I want.
Kincaid's sort of trying to run away, and as he runs down, like a car comes out in front of him, and the lights go and the noises, and it's just he gets disorientated in the chaos of all the cars going, and oh man, I love it. I really do, and it's really well lit. That's another thing about this film. The lighting in this film is amazing.
Fantastic. Oh, can we talk about my favorite bit of lighting? Can we talk about a few hues? No blue hues.
Yes, please.
But will we talk about some
red
hues?
And green?
It's when, well, I would say it's more pink. I would say it's neon pink, neon red, and neon green.
Yeah, it looks more like a pink.
But whenever they're putting, fuck, his name's gone out of my head. They're putting the boy in the back of the ambulance, and inside the ambulance is all lit neon green, and outside the ambulance is the neon pink, and just those two side by side as that scene's playing out, I was like,
yes. It was a bit of a throwback to Freddy's Revenge. That film has some really nice red, pinky, and green lighting in it as well. Yeah. And it's such a great contrast. Those colours work so well together.
So
There's
good.
another villain film from the 80s called Vamp, and it's all neon greens and neon reds and pinks. It's fucking beautiful. Check that out if you can. But I love it, man. I love the lighting, especially towards the end of this film. The lighting changes where it gets very green. You know, it's very green and pink, isn't it? It's kind of like, I wouldn't say over the top.
Single blue hue.
No blue hues.
No blue hues.
Red.
We bit of red. We
Green.
bit of pink. And we bit of green.
Pink.
But no blue
Pink.
hues. Pink. Yeah.
So,
Gaff.
you're starting to come around a wee bit here. As
the more we're kind of talking about it, I'm like, actually,
I'm reeling you in, Danny. I'm reeling you in.
I'm still going to say that some of the narrative aspects, though, are pure bum.
Aye, of course.
And also tombstones beside each other. Stupid.
Nah, that's amazing.
It's amazingly cheesy.
But I'm going to go through some of the kills now. So,
well, I mean, there's this one actually has a fucking amazing kill in it because it's just so fucking out there.
Yeah.
Some of the
kills in this film is just fucking amazing. Some of the best in the whole franchise. I love Tina Gray's kill in the first film. I love Johnny Depp's kill. The second film doesn't really have too many good kills.
Except the shower scene it's a good kill in that it's kind of like quite gruesome, but also gratifying because you're kind of like, that guy kind of deserves.
Yeah. Well, I suppose in the second one you get the part where he comes out of his body, which is an awesome effect.
Yeah.
And the third one
is that a kill though? Or is it more just transformation?
Yeah, true. It's not really a kill. But in the third one you have awesome kills.
You got some great kills.
You know, marionettes, Showtime bitch.
Oh, Showtime bitch.
Yeah,
great.
You've got awesome kills. This one again, you've got a couple of awesome kills as well. And I love the sort of originality behind all the kills, and I think that's what's, you know, makes these films different from other sort of typical slashers.
Yeah.
Because they're dreamscapes. They're so imaginative, and they're so amazing.
It'd be so easy for them to just have Freddy slashing people down. Again, people would probably be satisfied with that, but they go the extra mile and give us kind of like, right, well, Freddy actually has the power to manipulate dreams, so why not go the extra mile? And he's a showman. Like, that is one of the big things about Freddy, is he's an absolute showman, so he's going to put on a show.
I was just thinking of The Greatest Showman there.
This is the greatest show, and just Freddy coming out in the fucking.
Oh,
imagine him in that kind of ringmaster outfit.
Here, do it, man. Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Any budding artists out there would like to do a piece of Freddy Krueger in The Greatest Showman
on all our social medias. Yes. If somebody sends us that, we will 100% give you all the credit and say,
please do it.
Absolutely awesome you are, because I would love to see Freddy done as a ringmaster.
The Greatest Showman. Did we just come up with something, Danny? Oh, did we just
imagine?
Trademark.
Imagine a new Nightmare on Elm Street movie where it's hit. Did we not say? Was there not a concept for like Freddy as doing a freak show?
Robert Englund had written a script for a film. I think it was before they did Dream Warriors. Actually, it was for the third film, or it may have been for the sequel. I don't know, but he had written a script, and it was Freddy's Funhouse.
See something like that, but a big show, and him as the ringmaster with all like these different. Imagine the baby head dogs and all the other kind of weird things that happen. He could have like exhibits with all his kind of like kids, his victims, and all through it.
No, that's amazing.
Oh, Uline Cinema.
What have we done?
Can you hear us?
Hello, Bob Shea. Let's get Bob Shea. No, it's not even. It's Warner. Warner on New Line now.
So Warner? Oh, okay.
Get John Warner on the call.
Get him on the blower.
Get him on the fucking blower. Here, lads.
Remember that last thing you did with Elm Street? Didn't work out, did it? Well, we have an idea. We've even got a costume. Ready or not?
We're the only ones that have ideas. Nobody has any ideas about New Elm Street. Ideas.
I mean, I'm sure there's some good ones, but I don't think there's any as good as that.
Well,
The Greatest Showman.
Definitely. I'm writing an Elm Street script as we speak, so not as we speak. I'm not doing it right now, but I
am doing it right this second. I was wondering what you were doing with your hands. They're just like.
So anyway, let's talk about the kills. Yeah, we got
Yes.
sidetracked there as usual, as per
That
fucking
was a
usual,
good.
Danny.
At least we were on topic.
That's
this
true.
time.
That's true. So one of the best kills in the whole franchise for me is Bug Girl,
Cockroach.
Brooke Thies, who
They've
is
got their cockroaches.
she is foreshadowed at the start of this when she kills the cockroach as she's eating her chips, and she's like, "Ooh, they're stinking," and she kills the cockroach. And she's also a bit. She is feminine. She's not butch, but she's kind of like she likes going to the gym and stuff, and she's a bit of a badass. She doesn't take any shit from boys. Yeah, she stands up for herself. And so there's a scene later on where she's lifting weights and kind of getting in shape, and Freddy just appears and.
What is it? Because he's convinced. He has convinced Alice to open basically like a gateway for him so that he can go and get your girl, and the mirror appears and she's working out, and he's like, you can clock off now, and makes her disappear, wakes her up, and then he uses in the room.
So the whole gimmick of this is that he's now using Alice to
get her friends.
Get the friends to kill. And what is it? He says a line to her. Feed me? Is it feed me more or something like that?
I remember. Isn't that something about
feed me, Alice? Aye, feed me.
It's in the diner scene, isn't it?
I can't remember, but it's like he's basically telling Alice to bring them into her dream because he can access them through her dream. And
is Freddy versus Jason just a remake of this film, but with Jason instead of Alice? Hot tech.
Oh.
Hot
basically,
tech,
well, he uses
He uses Jason to get.
He uses Jason
victims.
To kill the victims. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Kinda.
Just saying.
Same sort of idea, I suppose. But anyway, bring them to me or something. He says something like that. Anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that scene is awesome and that's really well shot. It looks fucking awesome, and she gets basically turned into a fucking bug, man.
It's when it's even before that, before she starts turning into the bug, she's pressing down the weight, and her elbows just like start to snap out, but instead of her bones popping out through the skin, these like little bug arms start being like, and it's and then as she tries to crawl away, getting stuck in that
she's like this, and her cockroach hands are coming out, her arms are coming out of her elbows. She's like this here, and then she falls down onto the
paper, the sticky,
sort of like the sticky fly stuff.
Yeah, sticky fly. See that there? That scene turns me because I hate sticky stuff being like on my hands or whatever, like touching sticky, like really sticky stuff turns me. So watching her trying to like pull her face away from that and all the sticky on it,
pulling off it and stuff.
But then when her skin pulls away and you expect to see a skull, it's a fucking cockroach head.
And then she's inside the wee matchbox.
She's in the bug hotel.
The wee bug hotel.
The wee bug hotel, yeah.
That's fucking amazing. Like, how could you not love that scene? Come on.
Wow.
Amazing effects.
It's a great scene.
It's such an inventive
practical effects. It turns me. Which I mean, what more do you want from a horror film than to be turned?
To be turned, boy.
Absolutely turned.
Not sexually now.
No, not that be
just
turned on. This is
right.
just my stomach's been turned. It's doing flips. I'm gonna book.
So that's one of the most iconic kills in the whole franchise, but definitely one of the best kills in this film. I also love her other little friend. She's played by Toy Newkirk. Oh my god, I can't remember her name. With the glasses. She's amazing.
Yes.
She's
I love the wee robot hand.
Yeah.
Comes up from her book and all. Yeah.
She's kind of like a nerdy girl.
Nerdy sci-fi.
Spookish.
Yeah, she's got asthma. So
of course.
Which again, as somebody who like grew up with asthma and still would have it on the occasion, like I was kind of like, that's kind of spoopy. Like that's for somebody who would be an asthma sufferer. That's a little scary.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's real. It's real, Danny.
Very real. And just him being dirty old Freddy, fucking shucking the lungs over, and then the way she like just shrivels up too is just
iconic. On a suck face. Classic line. On a suck face. And basically he snogs her, but he sucks the life out of her.
She just becomes a raisin, pretty much. She, she's just everything, all the juices and all gone.
Oh Jesus! So she's dead, and then obviously at the start of the film we get Kincaid dies as well. It's pretty. We spoke about it in the junkyard.
All the Dream Warriors.
But what about
go?
What about Joey's death? That was pretty cool.
Man, the waterbed.
waterbed.
Yeah, that was good. But we've had waterbed in these
Ditties.
movies before, have we not? And ditties.
And ditties,
Obviously,
of course.
there's two moments of ditties in this film. You've got the waterbed ditties, and then you have the ditties, which again, at this point in the film, I was like, why do they need to show ditties right now? Like, this isn't really a scene for ditties. But when all the souls are like trying to escape Freddy, and there's like that one point where like a woman just kind of like rubs up against like the rubber that they must be using for that, and you're like, is this really a time for ditties?
No.
I don't think this is a time for ditties.
Well, obviously that was just like, we need to have some ditties, so
It's,
our ditty
your
count's
director
quite
boy was
low.
probably just like, you know, it'd be kind of hot right now as Freddy's being torn apart by all the souls that tormented him. Some soul titties.
I know. But as that we were watching this last night, and Janine was kind of watching it with me. She wasn't really, but when that part happened, like that climax scene's amazing.
It's a great climax scene, but again, why titties?
And the big soul chest, that's unreal.
Yeah.
Unreal.
I love all the wee
effects.
hands that like come out and they're trying to like pull his own glove into it. That moment where they grab and try and get his claw into his face. I was like, ah!
But as we were watching it, obviously it's a big giant chest, and there's people in behind it, and it's their faces are coming out,
rubbing in around behind it.
Janine was like, "Oh, that's kind of gross," and then you get that split second where you get the woman coming up, and you see her ditties, and she was like, "Oh, that's kind of hot," and I just burst out laughing, and she just burst out laughing, and I just looked at her, and she was like, "What?" And like, oh fuck me, that was exactly the reaction that Renny Harlin wanted.
Yep. That's
ditties.
I know it wasn't for me. See the woman trying to escape skin. I didn't find it kind of hot. I'm gonna say
it was like she was popping out. It was like she was popping out of a sack of some kind. Like in the Matrix, whenever they're
dig
like,
on that sacky fetish.
Sacrilegious.
It was sacrilegious because it was happening in a church too. Jesus, of all the places,
blasphemers.
Oh fuck me, it's awful.
Jesus. So obviously the waterbed scene is pretty cool as well.
But have we had a waterbed scene before?
We had Johnny Depp's.
But was that a waterbed as well? Was that what?
I'm pretty sure it was a waterbed.
Pretty sure it was a waterbed. Yeah. Yeah,
you
so
don't see
first waterbed,
you don't really
still
see the water as such. It's just kind of squishy. He knows something's happening. Like
it's this year one when the man goes in and pulls the blanket back and he's inside it, drowned. Great. So, another great death.
Yeah, and then of course we have some of the most iconic scenes in the whole franchise in this film. We'll go through a couple of scenes. We've spoken briefly about a few of them already. I love Beach Freddy. I think that's awesome. Putting the sunglasses on.
Yeah, can't beat about a Beach Freddy.
Big fan of Jaws, so the shark fin coming up.
Yeah.
And then blowing up the sandcastle and him just appearing. That's fucking great, mate. I don't care what anyone says.
So I love it. I really like, and it's quite early on in the film, and it's not really like any sort of great practical effect or anything, but it's that moment at the start when we have what looks to be the shadow of Freddy's claw against the wall. It turns around and it's actually just a branch on a tree. I don't know, I just love spooky trees in movies, where they're casting shadows and the people are like, oh! And then they look around and it's like, oh, it's just a spooky tree. I like those wee spooky tree moments.
I love that shit, man. It's great. I love that the house, like anything in his house is great. Yeah, because you can basically do anything. Oh, just have like some fallen, just get an umbrella and to make it look scary, or fucking anything, man. You can do anything you want in that house and it can be scary looking. And it doesn't need to make sense.
Because it's a dream.
Because it was the 80s.
It was the 80s and it was a dream.
And it was a dream, so fuck, whatever. So we have Beach Freddy, and then let's talk about karate. Because our pal, Mr. Andras Jones, who plays Alice's brother in this, who is dating Kristen at the start of the film, and is sort of a bit like the hero of the film, I suppose. He's a fucking wee karate kid. You don't fuck with him.
Karate kid.
He will knock you out.
It just it felt like an absolute sort of grab at that whole kind of Karate Kid sort of popularity thing.
The thing was, like, back in the 80s, karate
Was that, yeah,
was massive. It really was.
It's
Like,
huge,
and you know,
yeah.
Karate Kid obviously was huge, and you know, you had all those sort of karate films, you know, where you had a lot of Chuck Norris. You had a lot of American actors, you know, doing karate and somehow just being able to beat all these fucking kung fu legends. And that was a big thing. That was like a subgenre in itself, really, in the 80s and even into the 90s as well. So it was a
Can't be
massive
about
thing.
blood sport.
Bloodsport, obviously, Van Damme, all those, you know, all those films were fucking amazing, and that was a huge, huge deal back then, man. So, you know, this guy was a badass because he could, you know,
He could do the karate.
he could do a crane kick. And when he's trying to teach her at the start, and she's like, "Oh," and he's like, "No, really, you know, feel it," and she's like, "Oh," and then her shoe flips off into the fucking fish tank, which was actually quite funny end to that scene. But it was just so pathetic. Like, you know, no offense to anybody that does karate, because it is a genuine, you know, legitimate martial art.
Mm-hmm.
But the way they always portray it in films is just pathetic, I think.
It's always so over the top, and I understand, like, they kind of do say you sort of have to put sort of shouts stuff into it, because it does, being able to kind of do that verbalization drives whatever you're doing, but there's just the noises they make, or sometimes you're like, fuck off with that silly noise. But yeah, it's always so, and it's always the same sort of moves, like those really exaggerated like kicks and punches and throws, when really chances are a lot of the time it's not actually about doing out and out big kicks. It's more about using the momentum of your opponent to get them off their feet.
It's defensive as well.
It's like, not just crane kicking all the time, which is an illegal move, by the way. It's an illegal move.
Sweep the leg.
Illegal move. Sweep the leg.
Yes, sensei. So one of the other great scenes ever in cinema is Nurse Freddy. So I fucking pissed myself laughing, and I've got another funny story about Janine as well. So who's it that falls asleep? It's I don't know, is it Alice? I can't remember. Or is it Dan?
No,
is it the guy?
As I was going to say, is it not Dan whenever he's put under?
No, that's at the end.
That's towards the end, isn't it?
Fuck, I think it's Alice. I could be wrong, but Nurse Freddy, like, come on. Robert Englund wearing red lipstick, a little bit of eyeliner, a black wig, and funny glasses, and trying to put on a female voice is amazing. And it actually reminded me a little bit of Heath Ledger from The Dark Knight, which I think they were 100%. Sort of playing on that aspect as well. But the whole sort of like, oh my God, this is amazing. And then I remember whenever we were watching it, Janine was like, what's that? This is weird. Why is there a man playing a nurse? She didn't know it was Robert Englund.
She didn't try on.
And I was like, what do you mean? It's fucking Freddy. She was like, oh, of course it is. And then he just turned down, and then that's when he turned into Freddy, and you seen the blood stains in his back, sorry. But what a scene that is, like. So glad they wrote that into the thing, and you know, it does sound ridiculous. Yeah. When I'm saying it now, it sounds fucking ridiculous, and you wouldn't see something like that in a film today. No. But Danny, it was the 80s.
Different time.
It was a different time. We already spoke about the dog piss scene. We already spoke about the resurrection of Freddy, which is fucking amazing and worth a revisit. Anybody that is still on the fence about this film and has heard, you know, a lot of bad shit about this film, people laughing at it, go back and watch it, because the practical effects are really, really good and still stand up today.
Film are fantastic. Really, cannot be faulted at all.
One of my favorite scenes from the whole film is, well, first, before you even get to the scene, I love the sets in this film. There's not a lot of major sets, but one of the major sets is the diner, and particularly whenever she goes into it during her dream sequence, where it's kind of, it looks as if there's like a tornado's went through it or something, and it's kind of all dusty and dirty. Really lovely set piece, and that's where we have the pizza face.
Mm-hmm. That's where you see old Alice, and he eats the soul meatball.
I love I love the time loop scene where they're trying to get Debbie. That's whenever they know that Debbie is in trouble. Debbie's the bug girl.
Yes.
They know that she's in trouble, so Alice and Dan.
Oh, and it keeps looping back and back. Because I remember even watching that again this time, I was kind of like, is my Blu-ray acting up here? But then you kind of twig on, like, oh, wait, fuck. I was like, oh, fuck, yes, this is part of the thing. Yeah, that's a pretty great moment. And when they kind of twig on to what's going on, you're like, and again, does that maybe add to the notion of the whole kind of like time travel dreamscape? Is that maybe a little something that they've kind of pulled from there, that kind of notion of constantly looping time?
Yeah, maybe that idea was something that they got from Wes Craven's sort of idea that he said to Bob Shaye before they rejected it.
Yeah,
I think so anyway, because they sort of do a couple of wee things. Like earlier in the film, when Kristen's in the house, there's a bit where she walks through a door, but she walks in to the same room, and it's just reversed. So it's not really a time loop, but it's kind of like a mirror image. So it's almost like she's reliving the exact same moment that she just came out of.
Reverse.
Got that idea of time loop and sort of stuff like that. So I like that. I wish they had played more with that. I think there's a lot more meat on the bone with something like that. I think they could do more with that in the future when they eventually make another Elm Street movie, because it's going to happen, let's face it. I just love that time loop scene, and I think the fact that they do it 3 or 4 times, I think it's the third, maybe the 4th time, and then they're like, hang on, what's going on here? This is weird. It's like a deja vu thing. They think they're having deja vu, basically.
Yeah. And
I just love that. I love that aspect that, you know, they could even have used it more, and they could have explained it a little more, because in a way it is kind of an explanation for dreams. You know, people think that, you know, deja vu exists. Some people think that it's because you've had a dream and you're sort of seeing something in your dream and you think you've already relived it, but it's really just a dream. So I love that whole kind of mythology behind dreams, and they definitely could have done more with it. But I just love that whole scene in the diner. I love the set. I love that she goes in and sees her old self, because she was like, earlier on in the film, she was like, oh, I'm going to be here for the rest of my life. And I just thought that was a nice throwback to an earlier scene.
It's that whole kind of lead up then from that scene, and just before we said about the lighting around when they're putting Dan into the ambulance and stuff, and it's when they crash into Freddy, and the way that car just in the front of it just goes like sandwiches around what would have been Freddy. Again, another kind of great sort of moment, because you almost expect that the car's just going to pass on through because he's not really there,
like a ghost,
but then it actually just crumples in around what should have been Freddy. And I just
another cool effect, a really good effect.
Great moment. Yeah,
there's so many great ideas in this film and great concepts, and for the most part they do follow through. And
just a wee bit further development in some parts would be great. You know what? I think the more we've talked about it, though, the more I'm kind of like, you know what? I think I actually maybe jumped the gun in my opinion on this one.
You definitely did.
And being able to actually talk out with somebody.
It is still quite a dark film. I think a lot of people think that, after Dream Warriors, the whole franchise, went silly. Comedy and silly. And it's quite a dark film, you know, and I think there's so many good ideas in it. I love the surrealism in this, and obviously, you look at Elm Street as a franchise, and you say, right, basically the whole gimmick of the franchise is that it's surreal. You know, it's outside of reality. It's the dream world, and that's what draws us into the franchise, because they have no boundaries. They can do whatever the fuck they want, and the surreal images in this are really great. And I love the surrealism, and I love that. You know, you look at the time loop scene. You look at there's a scene where I don't know if it's Alice or Kristen, I can't remember, but she goes through into her room and she's crawling on the ceiling briefly, and I just love that sort of imagery as well. And, you know, there's so many other awesome scenes in this. You've got the kind of anti-gravity scenes as well, where the part where she's in the theater, and, you know, she starts getting sucked into the screen, and, you know, the popcorn starts going and the drinks start sort of going. It's kind of anti-gravity basically, and then she actually gets sucked into the film, the black and white film.
Yeah.
And that kind of goes a wee bit Wizard of Ozzy, sort of Alice in Wonderlandy. Yeah. And I thought that was a cool scene as well.
Really cool scene. Yeah. I really like whenever she's kind of she's gonna save the day with Dan, and she like jumps through her mirror and then through the like X-ray thing on the other side.
Yeah.
And kind of like it's just so like what a way to go from one scene to the next. You know, let's just have her jump into it. I was kind of like, oh well, okay, I can kind of dig that.
I think that's the scene where she says, "Let him go, you bastard." And she
when she jumps
back like this, and then she does a big run. And it's funny because when she jumps, I mean, it's the most fake kick ever. Like, it's like she jumps up and like literally turns like vertical
Power
or
Rangers
horizontal.
style.
Sorry, she turns horizontal. It's just like
full on Power Rangers.
Yeah, exactly.
Amazing.
But again, part of the charm of the film.
Yeah, exactly. The one that I'm not a fan of how Freddy's defeated in this one. I think again something a bit kind of like, I turn the mirror on evil, and evil shall be reflected back on itself and will be good. And you're like,
yeah, because they actually do the nursery rhyme in this as well at some point, but they change it because they say the Dream Master. Yeah, it's not the OG nursery rhyme, and so I didn't really like that. They sort of, they flipped that a little bit, and then basically Freddy looked at himself in the mirror and was like, "Oh shit, I'm evil." And
all
then
the souls start coming
I like that
again.
part.
I like this the wee arms and stuff coming out, as I said, when they start like coming out of his skin and like grabbing his hand, trying to force the claw into his face, and then they all like grab hold of like the religious thing like, behind him, and
he's being held like this.
End up, that's fantastic. But the whole kind of lead up to that with the look at yourself. Just take a moment to look at yourself and think about what you've done.
I know. The fight just pre that is kind of funny as well. She's like doing the old sort of whoosh, whoosh, whoosh.
It's when her brother's doing it, but Freddy's like invisible, which again I'm kind of like, okay, this is a cool idea, but then he gets to kick the glove, but then the glove does the wee quick like, turn around.
Yeah. Apparently that whole scene where he dies was like literally filmed in like 5 minutes at the very end, because they had a whole thing planned out for that. He was supposed to die originally in like an elevator shaft, and it was supposed to be this big elaborate death, and then they changed it to him fighting Freddy.
Kung Fu fighting.
But he said in the documentary that the fight was supposed to be like this real big awesome fight, and they were probably supposed to go at it, but Robert Englund wasn't available to film on that day because they it was literally last minute. They were like, right, we just need you to go in here and film it, and it's a piece of shit room with just loads of curtains hanging. There's nothing.
Fog.
It's not a proper set.
More fog.
Get the smoke machines in.
No.
But yeah, it's just literally a room, and they just hung a few curtains up, and they were like, right, mate, we just need you to pretend that you're beating Freddy up.
This is a dojo. Freddy's invisible. The glove is held up with fishing wire. Go.
I wonder, did they play You're the Best Around?
Or Everybody Was Kung Fu Fighting?
Just in the background while they were filming it. Yeah, it's pathetic. Like, it's so silly. But I think your man, Andres Jones, who played that character, was a bit bummed out because in the original script, his death scene was supposed to be pretty cool. So, but budget issues, time issues, scheduling. Yes, I'm pretty sure this production and filming got a wee bit wild, got a wee bit out of control at times. But again,
all the director wanted was boobs.
I know. The magic of cinema, that's part of the story of filmmaking, and we love it because we love to go back and be like, fucking hell, like, imagine if Apocalypse Now was just made with no issues, no troubles, no story behind the filming of the film. Like, it would just be another war film. Like, part of why that film's amazing is because of all the shit that happened around it, and similar to this film, maybe not on the same scale, but that's why we love cinema as well, because we love the stories.
One of the ones I found out recently, and it's not horror and like that, they're a war film, but I'd never actually watched it until very, very recently. Pretty Woman. And I did not realize how much shenanigans was going on during the production of Pretty Woman. Apparently the director would just
another 80s movie?
He would just 80s. Be like, okay, here's the scene. I rewrote it 5 minutes ago. I want you to act out, and then I also want you to do some ad-lib stuff, and we'll just see if it works.
That's the thing. Like, a lot of those productions back in those days, it was just, throw a lot of shit and see what sticks. It's a lot more structured now, for good and for bad reasons. But I think that's part of the magic, and that's why films feel so special, because they have that sort of story behind it as well.
Mm-hmm. You always hear those sort of stories. I love the Starship Troopers one. You ever hear that?
Paul
The
Paul
sheriff's thing?
Verhoeven.
Yeah.
It's mad, man. I love all those stories. It's brilliant, though. I love reading all the production problems and all the mad shit that went on.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, this one definitely has its flares and its charms because of probably all the shenanigans, and I dare say there was some drugs.
I would say so.
No, I would say. But yeah, the more we've talked about it, the more I'm kind of like, you know what? I gave that film a hard time at the start. It's not that bad. It's not that bad. It's still not my third favorite, but it's definitely. We'll see. We'll see how we get on as we watch the rest of the Nightmare on Elm Street.
I would guess and be very confident in this that none of the other films will beat this in your eyes anyway. Maybe obviously New Nightmare. You said New Nightmare.
Yeah. But
I'm pretty sure 5 and 6 won't.
Dreamchild. There's some elements of Dreamchild, as far as it can be. There's some elements of it where I'm like, if that had just been executed better, it would be a far better film.
Yeah.
But
that's true.
It does just fall quite flat. But we'll get into that
next season
yes. When we do Nightmare on Elm Street Dreamchild
5.
Yes. We're going season 5, but not just yet. We've got another 3 episodes.
We do.
Maybe
more. We'll see. We'll see.
Surprise along the way. We got to remember it is spooky season.
Spooky season. Halloween's around the corner.
Oh yes.
But yeah, so it's hard not to love this film. Yes, the climax. You said, the whole sort of how Freddy dies is a bit silly. It is a wee bit silly, but you can't deny that the giant soul chest is amazing.
Yeah, it does. It does end up being better because that's added to it. Like, I mean, if it had just been a case of look at yourself and he like exploded or something, I'd have been like, that's really fucking shit.
Yeah.
But the fact that moment then leads on to a great moment with some great practical effects and some fantastic acting by Robert Englund as well. The way, he's absolutely just like being torn apart from the inside, and that I don't think could we ever really fault Robert Englund in any of these movies? No, not a chance.
Absolutely no. And it's the part where the hand comes out the back of his head.
Oh,
that was awesome.
Grabs on the thing,
and he's like,
just whips his head back. One moment.
Who the fuck is that?
No. Man, I really hope...
so good, man.
Is there anybody out there that doesn't like Robert Englund?
So there can't be. It can't be.
See, if anybody, there's going to be that one person that hits the thumbs down on this video, and we'll know. And we'll come after you like Jay and Silent Bob.
I know. We'll report you to Robert Englund, and then he'll beat you up. But the man behind that whole giant soul chest and all the practical effects during that whole segment was John Carr-Baker. Now, Danny, we've spoken about him before. On our Ghoulies episode. He directed Ghoulies Goes to College. He also directed Troll, and he also directed Cellar Dweller, which we spoke about last week on our Child's Play episode. He has worked a lot with Charles Band and Empire Pictures, so most of the films that he was involved with was very much 80s, very low budget creature feature, high practical effects, but very low budget, which we love.
We are all about it. I keep being so tempted to go watch because I got the MGM channel stuff to watch
of Amazon.
To watch Child's Play for last week's episode, and I seen they have Troll, but they also have Troll 2. And I've never actually seen Troll, but I've seen Troll 2 because I just wanted to see that notorious scene of they're eating her and then they're going to eat me. Oh no! I just fucking meme-worthy content.
Troll 2.
Please let us know in the comments if you want us to talk about Troll 2. I want to talk about Troll 2. Will we just talk about Troll 2?
Fuck it, let's
next
do it,
season.
This is an exclusive. You heard it here first.
Troll 2 next season.
At some point in season 5, we will talk about Troll 2. We don't need to talk about Troll 1 because they're completely separate films.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
They're not connected.
No, it's
Okay.
literally the fact that it's not even called Trolls 2 or Trolls. It's just called Troll 2, and it has nothing to do with Troll.
Get trolled.
And even the fact that they're trolls, but they live in a town called Nelbog, which is Goblin backwards.
Mm-hmm. Amazing.
We will get into that more in season 5. But have you seen it? No, have you never seen Troll 2?
I think I've seen Troll. I don't think I've seen Troll 2. I could be wrong because obviously, when I was young, I've seen a lot of mad shit, but I certainly haven't seen it since I was a kid.
There's so much
I definitely remember seeing images. I think I've maybe seen Troll, but I don't know if I've seen Troll 2. But I'm excited. I'm very excited
to talk about Troll 2.
Don't give anything away.
I'm so ready to
know.
just erupt with so much of the lines and just references, but I will hold my wish until season 5.
Yes. So that's the first one that we're definitely going to do that in season 5. We're definitely going to do Dreamchild. Obviously, 100%. Season 5, part 5.
Okay, we'll do our Treehouse of Horrors.
We'll go back to the Treehouse of Horror.
I dare say we'll probably have some regular visitors back again. Our resident lycanthrope and Joe, whoever else wishes to join us.
Robert Englund, you never know. Maybe.
Imagine.
Edgar Wright, maybe. You never know.
That'd be amazing.
Bruce Campbell.
That would also be fantastic.
We can dream. We can. So amazing effect. I love that effect at the end of this film. And then it ends and, Alice and Dan live happily ever after. Or do they? We'll find out in the next part. Because they both return in Dreamchild Part 5. Or Part 5 Dreamchild, I should say. But love Part 4 Dream Master. Really glad that we've been speaking about it for nearly 90 minutes, Dan, and you have completely changed your tune.
I have changed my tune. I still don't. I don't know that I would say I love it. Obviously, you love it because you have that nostalgic feel for it. But I do actually think I enjoy it more than I let on at the start of this. I think it was just actually talking through the scenes and the special effects and some of those great moments within it. It's just a shame for me that whilst there's quite a few great moments, there's also a few stinkers in this one.
Of course there is.
Well, again, I mean, for most stuff that is the case, but yes, I definitely have. I'm leaving this chat with a slightly higher opinion of Nightmare on Elm Street 4.
Wanted to give a shout out to horror legend Linnea Quigley, who I think she is Diddy Soul. She's the Diddy's in the Soul Chest.
The Diddy's in the Soul Chest, okay.
Because she's quite a famous horror actress. She's been in literally hundreds of horror films. Mm-hmm. She does all the cons. She was in Night of the Demons, and she was also Trash, the character of Trash in Return of the Living Dead. She's been in loads of horror films over the years, but she's kind of notorious for getting naked in her horror films and playing kind of out there characters, and she's a legend. But yeah, I'm pretty sure she is the Diddy's in the Souls.
Can anybody confirm? Can we get, if you happen to know, please let us know.
She's definitely credited as being the main soul in that big chest.
Main soul in the chest. So
yeah, I'm almost certain she is.
She is Diddy Souls.
She is.
It's like Dark Souls, but with Diddy's.
Soul Diddy.
So Diddy.
P. Diddy's younger, more talented brother, sister, rapper. I don't know. Anyway, we need to stop talking shite and we need to get going here. So I really enjoy talking about Dream Master.
Yeah. I really enjoyed talking about it, dude, considering I came on being like, I'm actually leaving this more like,
there's a great line actually in this that we didn't really speak about, and I know that I love Tuesday Night as Kristen. I think some of the acting in the beginning of the film is questionable, but she had to take the part of Patricia Arquette, and I think she said in interviews that she felt the pressure of that because obviously the actors that she was acting alongside wanted Patricia Arquette to be in that role, and it would have kept the continuity and stuff, etc., etc. But she had to do what she was asked to do. She had to play the hand that was dealt for. So, and it was a massive role for her. But there's a great line whenever her mum, who returns, the great Brooke Bundy, I think is the name of the actress, but her mum from Dream Warriors, Andale,
Yes.
she returns in this, and she drugs her. She puts
Drugs
fucking sleeping pills.
Sleeping pills. Yeah.
And I love how her mum's like, "Oh, you're fine." She's like, "Oh no, my mates have died. Like, two of my best mates have died today." And her mom's like, "Ah, it's fine. You're just tired." So she puts sleeping pills in her fucking drink or food or whatever. And then Kristen is running up the stairs, and there's a great fucking line that she says. She's like, "No, mother, you just murdered me." And there we have it. We'll end the episode on that line.
Yeah.
Fucking great line of dialogue.
Good one. That's a good one. Because
so,
again, for all the good lines, there's also quite a few stingers too.
I thought that was a really good
great line to finish on. Yes.
And then next week we will be back with another episode of Monday Night Frights. But in the meantime, please visit the website www.thefrightclubni.com. Check out the social medias at the Fright Club NI. Like, subscribe, comment, tell your friends, share the videos. Please do, because it helps us if you like and comment.
All those things.
And buy a t-shirt on the website if you want to do that. But
we'd really appreciate it. And also patches. We still have patches.
Patches, yes, we've got the patches.
We've got patches and we've got t-shirts. So yes, if you are interested. But also, I've just realised that this episode will be going out the Monday of Halloween week. So
yes, happy Halloween this week.
Your spoopy times.
Stay safe. Don't
Mm-hmm.
do anything that we wouldn't do or would do. Who knows? Whatever you're doing, have a fun time and enjoy it.
We're well-behaved boys.
We are, of course we are. We would never do anything bad.
No.
Stay safe. Don't be throwing bangers.
Don't be upsetting the
cats.
doggos.
Don't be scaring cats and dogs.
Don't be scaring the cats. Yeah. Don't be scaring the animals.
Or old people.
Please.
If you're carving pumpkins, post them to us. Let's see your best pumpkins.
Let's see if anyone does a Nightmare on Elm Street one. Really interested to see that. And also, we still stand on if anybody does a picture of circus ringleader Freddy Krueger. We want to see that shit.
The gravest showman.
Yeah.
Freddy Krueger in the showman costume. That'd be amazing.
100%.
Yeah. But until next week, stay safe. Take care. All the best, guys. Bye.
Bye.